Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I want to talk to you about multiple subjects tonight, and the first thing is Gaza. We've had more intensity in the northern part of Gaza. Today Al-Qassam brigades, they targeted an Israeli soldier carrier, and usually these carriers have between 12 to 18 people in them. They targeted it and they confirmed that everyone inside it was either injured or killed. They also sniped an Israeli commander in Hayy al-Zaytun, southern part of Hayy al-Zaytun area, also Gaza City, northern part obviously, and they killed him. The Israeli Broadcasting Authority, they admitted that there's a commander from the Shaked brigade that belongs to GOVT within the Israeli army who was killed, but they said that he was killed due to an anti-personnel missile. This could be another commander apart from the one that Hamas is talking about. So you've had a very intense day, very tough day on the Israeli occupation forces, and Saraya al-Quds, the armed wing of the PIJ, they also had multiple exchanges with the Israeli occupation forces in Khan Yunis. It wasn't quiet in Lebanon. Hezbollah announced that they had 7 attacks on Israel, 2 of which were on Israeli bases, and they had 2 confirmed attacks that had Israeli casualties in accordance to Hezbollah. There's a very massive development when it comes to Yemen, by the way. Yemen previously said that they haven't used all of their arsenal and all of their weapons, and that they will have surprises. There were reports a few days ago about a potential introduction of submarines, and now we've had the confirmation. The Houthi, Ansarullah, the Yemenis are using submarines against the genocide coalition in the Red Sea. This is taking it a step up. They've been increasing their attacks after seeing that there is no reduction in terms of hostility and attacks from the genocide coalition against Yemen, and their persistence in supporting this genocidal satanic death cult and their ongoing brutality, barbarism, and genocide in Gaza. So things are very, very tense, and with each stage that they progress, they show more and more powers, capabilities, and surprises for everyone. The other thing that I want to talk about is the protests in Israel. So the protests have been ongoing in Israel week by week. Some protests are bigger than others. What's evident from these protests is the increase in Israeli police brutality. So there were multiple protests today. There were protests in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, in Bi'r al-Saba', in Eilat, and in other parts, calling to take down Netanyahu. They want Netanyahu out. And this is not the first time that they called for Netanyahu to resign. They've been calling for him ever since the judicial reform. But now they're only calling for him to get out. We need to get rid of this man causing so many problems. But the most brutal actions from the police were in Tel Aviv. The protesters were protesting in front of the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Obviously, it's something called the Kiryat in Hebrew, the main hubs of control when it comes to Israel. They imprisoned some of them, attacked them, they dispersed the protests, obviously, and they also sprayed them with sewage water. Now, I know some of you might be surprised, but Israel uses this regularly against Palestinian protesters. But now the Israelis are feeling that same brutality that, although at a much, much smaller scale, the Palestinians have been feeling for so long. And what's very interesting is one of the people they attacked in Tel Aviv was a prisoner who was released from Gaza. So she was held by the Palestinian resistance. She was released during the previous ceasefire deal and prisoner exchange, and she is protesting against the government. Many of those who were released spoke very, very fiercely against the Israeli government, their action, and they know that people are still there. People who have been kidnapped, they know that some other people are still there, and it's visible, clear, it's evident that what the government is doing there is killing them, is risking them, obviously, since the beginning of this genocide. You know, everyone talking about bring back the Israeli prisoners, disregarding that Israel is actually killing them in Gaza, and the people protecting them in Gaza is the resistance, obviously, because they want to release their own prisoners who have been in Israeli prisoners, dying slowly, tortured to death in many cases, under administrative detention. Thousands of them are. No claims against them, no charges, and they can't access legal aid. Their families don't know anything about them, and they can continue this renewal of administrative detention. This is when it comes to the protest. It's not backing down. The pressure is going back up on Benjamin Netanyahu. The final thing that I want to talk to you about in this video is supposedly we have a new plan. There's a new US proposal. We're obviously seeing this back and forth visits in Paris, obviously, following up the proposal that came out of Paris with regards to the temporary ceasefire. It was met, obviously, with Israeli rejection. As a matter of fact, they took out their delegation from the latest meeting earlier on without finalizing anything, really, showing, again, stubbornness and lack of really openness to try and reach a serious deal. Because what are they expecting? Hamas to submit? They're not going to submit, and they want what's good for the Palestinian people, as they declare. But what is this US proposal? So with the Paris proposal, you've had 45 days, right? There were talks about 45 days, 3 stages. And obviously Hamas commented on that. They said, you know, Israel must withdraw eventually. As a first stage, the war needs to stop. They can't fly over Gaza. We want aid in the north, rebuilding, temporary housing, all of these things. However, the primary things that the proposal of the US spoke about, of the Biden administration, is initially a ceasefire for 6 weeks, a temporary ceasefire for 6 weeks, so just less than 45 days. And when it comes to, I mean, approximately close to 45 days, really. And when it comes to the prisoners of Israel, that 40 will be released in the initial stage. They didn't speak a lot about numbers previously, by the way, but there were sometimes exaggerated reports that 1 Israeli per 100 Palestinians will be released. And clearly that was an attempt from Israel back then, it appears to be, to say the least, to, throw this massive number so that when we actually reach a deal, the number will be lower and people would feel like, okay, it's not that bad. Now we're talking about at least 10 released, 10 Palestinian prisoners released for every 1 Israeli prisoner released. That's in accordance to the Israeli Broadcasting Authority. The US proposal didn't speak a lot about the following stages, but the attempt that's coming from the US here is in the hope that we just need to ignite this, we need to get this going, this temporary ceasefire, and in the hope that if we do get to it, if we solve this initial stage, hopefully things will build back up again. And that is potentially likely to happen. Why? Because of the length of the temporary ceasefire. When we had the first temporary ceasefire, it was just a week or so, right? It wasn't long at all. We had the initial stages of the prisoner exchanges, and then obviously Israel signed the breaking of the temporary ceasefire, and they reignited their genocide campaign in Gaza, killing, on top of the already massacred 16,000, another 13,000 at least to that barbaric genocidal campaign. But what the US is hoping to do is reach a deal that will hopefully ignite a permanent ceasefire by the end of it. But at the same time, we're hearing reports that Israel is still applying pressure on both Egypt and Qatar, potentially before this additional US pressure or this recent proposal, to try and force Hamas to try and reach a deal. This was faced with a complete lack of exchange when it comes to Qatar. They weren't playing ball with Israel when it comes to this. They rejected this proposal and they had their comments on it. When it comes to Egypt, they could have potentially tried to do something, although they're not very happy with Israel. But this is the latest proposal from the United States. There's potentially going to be talks about it in Paris again and in other capitals, primarily Cairo and Doha. And in the next coming days, we will see the comment of Israel primarily on this and what Hamas think about it, if it included detailed information about the level of aid, the temporary housing, the aid to the north, and how far will Israel withdraw from the initial stages, because these things are very crucial to Hamas. Hamas want Israel to withdraw completely, but they're happy for it to be taken on multiple stages. So when it comes to actually having this going forward, we will most likely see the responses both from Hamas and from Israel in the next coming days, and we will see if there is any potential of this going through in the next few weeks, and hopefully before the holy month of Ramadan, so that the people of Gaza can get some sort of relief and some sort of normality in the holy month of Ramadan. In my live stream tonight, I'm going to be talking about a plan for Gaza that some Israeli thinkers were speaking about, that Netanyahu is proposing to some tribes and families in Gaza, Emirate states across Palestine. And I will also be talking about China and their latest statement supporting the Palestinian armed resistance in the ICJ. So join me tonight in my live stream. As posted in my community tab, I have live streams on a regular daily basis where members and subscribers can join in and share their thoughts and views. It's primarily made for you. And these were the main things that I want to talk to you about today. And I will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Take care.